Good morning. Welcome to NOSH Live Winter 2021. It's so great to be back in person. I'm Ray Latif, the editor and producer of BevNet's Taste Radio podcast and the host of NOSH Pitch Slam 11. Presented by 301 Inc., the venture capital arm of General Mills, the NOSH Pitch Slam gives early stage and promising brands the opportunity to present their business plans and products to a panel of expert judges and the audience watching on the live stream. The winner of the two-day competition will receive a $10,000 industry awareness package and join a short list of brands that have triumphed in the competition, including Beckon Ice Cream, Creation Nation, Elite Sweets, Tribali, and Bronx Hot Sauce. We're kicking off the Pitch Slam with a semifinal round in which entrepreneurs from 11 brands will have 2 minutes to deliver their best elevator pitch. Our judges will provide approximately 2 to 3 minutes of feedback following each pitch. The judges have already sampled the products. Very quickly, I might add. After all the brands have presented, the judges will pick 5 brands to move on to the final round, which takes place tomorrow. The 6 finalists will be chosen by audience vote. At the end of today's semifinal round, we're going to show a a list of all of the participants and a number next to the brand name. Livestream viewers will have an opportunity to vote by texting the number corresponding with your favorite brand to a phone number that we'll provide. We're going to show that phone number at the end of the semifinal round. You'll have until 10 a.m. Pacific time to vote. We'll announce our 6 finalists at 12 p.m. Pacific time today. Now let's meet our panel of esteemed judges. Starting all the way to the left is Ana Maria Friede, who is the executive leader for breakfast, baking, meals, and essentials at Whole Foods Market. Since joining Whole Foods in 2004, Ana Maria has led supply chain process improvement projects and has advanced quality standards for multiple categories at the retailer. She was recently recognized with the Whole Foods Market's 2021 All-Star Award in recognition for excellence in leadership. Before joining Whole Foods, Ana Maria worked for Ahold USA in several merchandising roles. Next, we have Johnny Tran, who's a senior business development manager for 301 Inc., General Mills' venture capital arm. Prior to joining 301, Johnny was a brand manager on a number of General Mills platforms, including Progresso Soup, Pillsbury Cereal, and Snacking. Before his time at General Mills, he was a project manager in a construction firm by day and a breakdancing instructor by night. True story. True story, yeah. Next up, we have Danielle Lavolsi, who is the founder and CEO of Nutso, which has a well-deserved reputation as one of the most innovative nut butter brands. Danielle is also the co-founder of Project Left Behind, a nonprofit whose mission is to help orphaned and disadvantaged children in Peru. Project Left Behind is supported by every sale of Nutso products. Danielle, great to have you. Last but certainly not least is Erin Cabry, who is a staff reporter with NOSH. Erin joined the NOSH team as a staff reporter in November 2020. Prior to her current role, Erin served as the editorial assistant across all 3 BevNet media properties. She came to the company after interning at Nylon in Untapped, New York, while a student at Fordham University, where she graduated with a BA in journalism in 2018. So delighted to have this amazing group with us today. All right, who's ready to hear our first semifinalist? Everyone? All right. That person is Avery Henderson, who's the CMO of Marco Sweets and Spices. Come on up to the stage. How are you?
Thanks.
We can give him a round of applause. There we go. Just mind your timer.
Hey, I'm Avery Henderson, co-founder and CMO at Marco Sweets and Spices. At Marco, we create culinary-inspired international ice cream that echoes a love for travel and honors a diversity of ingredients from around the world, taking flavor profiles from across the globe and recreating them into ice cream. The inspiration for Marco came from a perfect marriage of what I'm passionate about and what we feel is a hole in the market. I'm an avid foodie and an avid traveler, and although I may be on one end of the spectrum with this, I'm certainly not unique. There's been a widely publicized foodie revolution in America with more people eating foods from around the world, and more of an emphasis on cultural and culinary expressions. Moreover, an increasingly diverse consumer set is demanding and expecting foods that represent them and what they take home from the grocery store. Yet when we look at the ice cream aisle, the big major brands are still offering the same 6 to 10 flavor profiles they always have. They recreate or they mix and match these flavor profiles any which way and call that innovation, but at the end of the day, the category is still all the same. With Marco, we can have an ice cream aisle that better reflects the diversity of the consumers that shop it. We launched Marco a little over a year ago, at a time when it was nearly impossible to launch a brand into retail due to the restraints on sampling. and diminished consumer exploration due to COVID. With this, we initially launched direct-to-consumer, focusing on building a design-forward brand that could succeed in that arena that we could then take into retail. With this, we were able to unlock a national consumer base and therefore garner endorsement from major publications like the New York Times, Boston Globe, Forbes, amongst many others. We were able to parlay this excitement into our retail launch, working with notable retailers like Central Market, Harmons, Citarella, and many more. What we think, though, is the most exciting component of Marco is its ability to grow the overall category. There's been subsegmentation across many different categories of the grocery store as consumer preferences have deepened. We feel that Marco can grow the new international flavor segment of the grocery store and the ice cream aisle, which is the area we aim to champion in the years to come. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. You just hand your microphone to her. Thank you. All right, Marco Sweets and Spices. Let's talk about the packaging. We see it here on the slide right here. Danielle, what's your initial thoughts on how Marco is positioned in terms of its label hierarchy?
Well, I love ice cream, as you know. So I love it. I think it's a totally different segment, the international. Everyone wants to travel, especially after the pandemic. So I think it's a great idea.
Erin, these flavors made my mouth water. I mean, they look really impressive. Do they taste as good as they look?
They definitely do. I am also a lover of ice cream and not afraid to eat it at 7 in the morning. And vanilla, I tried the vanilla chai, which was a delicious flavor and a nice spin on the classic flavor. So I thought the ones we were able to try were pretty good.
Fantastic. Anna-Maria, Avery talked about Marco is presenting an opportunity to expand bring more people to the ice cream category. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I'm actually very impressed with the flavor profiles that he is bringing to the table. We definitely need more variety in the ice cream doors. So the question that I would have liked to ask him was price point. I don't know if those flavors, because they're enhanced and they're more culinary driven, will have a different fit in the pricing profile for the ice cream category.
Yeah, price point definitely plays into scalability, right? So, Johnny, you know, in terms of a sort of specialty approach to the ice cream category like Marco has, do you see this as a scalable proposition?
Yeah, I think it's a big question. I've worked with our Haagen-Dazs brand a little bit, and we've done a lot of explorations, and we find that they're great at driving people to the aisle, but not everybody always buys it as like a plus one, like I'm always going to go back to get the vanilla plus a little thing of this thing on the side. And so I think that is a really big question, is like how big could it be? But it is definitely an awesome story for retailers to bring in something that brings news and excitement to the aisle.
Did you have a favorite flavor?
I only got to try the chai, but I'm not complaining about eating ice cream for breakfast. Fabulous. I think it's a new thing for me.
Fantastic. Well done. Well done, Avery. All right. Up next, we have Dean Ernst, who's the co-owner of Essential Candy. Dean, come on up. Great to see you. Just mind your timer.
All right. Thank you, NOSH, and thank you, judges, for this opportunity of being here today. My name is Dean Ernst, and I am the co-owner of Essential Candy, based in Wellington, Florida, where we are redefining confectionery. Essential Candy was founded in 2018 by my wife and business partner, Tracy Ernst. She had the desire here to help a dear friend who is battling cancer for the 4th time. She was inspired to create a unique way of infusing essential oils into hard candies to help combat the nauseousness associated with chemotherapy treatments. That was the day Essential Candy was born. Essential Candy makes functional, hard candies that are infused with essential oils and as well plant botanicals. All of our delicious, all-natural hard candies are organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, soy-free, dairy-free, have no artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, or sweeteners, and are low in sugar and also low in calories. Essential Candy's target market are ages 21 through 65. Currently, we offer our products online and through e-retailers and several mom-and-pop shops. We accomplish this through 2 specific product lines. Our first product line is our signature blends. We have 9 different SKUs with an MSRP between $10 and $12. Our most popular blend is our digestive blend, which is lemon, ginger, and peppermint. Our second product line is our CBD Plus signature blends. We have 4 different SKUs, with our Mandarin being our most popular. Average MSRP is between $20 and $35. With our mission of giving back and helping those with cancer, we created a unique campaign called Get One, Give One, where for every bag purchased, we donate one to cancer support groups and individuals going through chemotherapy. This is why we are Candy with a Purpose. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Dean. If you could just hand your microphone. Yep. Ice cream and candy to start the day. Fantastic. Anna Maria, Dean talked about this, all the attributes of essential candy. It seems like it checks so many boxes. It's candy for adults. Do you see this as playing into a new sort of space for the candy category, or does it fit into a different one?
I think that this product definitely, love the story, very inspirational. It touches a lot of homes, and like that there is a product behind for that purpose. The question that I would have liked to ask or get more insight is how to find the perfect blend of those essential oils to really test that efficacy, and also adding the CBD effect into or ingredient into the mix. Just for those customers who really need to understand more about essential oils in general or in CBD.
Mm-hmm. Erin, I think when people expect candy, they expect something that's going to taste great. What do you think about the taste of essential candy?
I think that I didn't get to try all of them, of course, but the ones that I tried taste pretty good. For the flavors that they have, sometimes when you have a functional product, taste sometimes comes second, but I like that they prioritized taste with this product.
Yeah, and in terms of function, Johnny, I think, typically you're looking for something indulgent, something sweet, something fun with candy. Do you think customers are going to be looking for function as well in this kind of space?
Yeah, I think this is a killer concept here. This is such a cool benefit that it brings, and he was talking about the pricing. The price slopes of essential oils are way wonky. People will pay so much for this stuff, and it'd be so good for retailers to bring price appreciation to the aisles. So I think this is a great concept. It's a great articulation of the idea too. They taste great. I actually brought some of the digestive ones after pounding 10 of these samples right before coming in here. So proof is in the pudding there. And I think the one thing that you might want to think about is the packaging design. I think packaging is the articulation of a brand's soul. And I think there's so much you could do here. There's so much behind this idea and concept. I think you could bring it to life a little bit.
Packaging is the articulation of the brand soul. I'm going to steal that, Johnny. If I can.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Danielle, as an entrepreneur, what are some of the things that you're seeing in Essential Candy that you think will give the brand a leg up, and what are some of the things that they might need to improve upon as they scale?
Yeah, to just kind of piggyback with what Johnny said, I love the concept. Amazing. I can see moms giving it to their children that are over the age of 5, just helping them boost their immune system. We're in a pandemic. It would just be scalability, and I know they're online, which I think is a great place to start, but probably starting off small in your region and getting into maybe even a Whole Foods region. You can definitely do it one store at a time and more of the wellness section, but I love the concept.
Well, luckily we have someone from Whole Foods here. Maybe you can talk later on. So. All right, up next on the Pitch Slam 11 is Ann Klassman, who's the founder and CEO of Undress Snacks. Ann, how are you? Come on up. Your microphone is here, and please mind your timer.
Good morning. Today I'm going to show you something that's never been possible before. On stage with me right now are 12 toasted almonds, a bed of organic kale and spinach. I've got some strawberries, blueberries, and chia, dressed in a bright white balsamic vinaigrette with some basil and a touch of salt and pepper. These are the ingredients of a savory summer salad that I can now enjoy anytime and anywhere, because for the first time ever, I can put a salad in my pocket. Hi, I'm Ann Klassman, founder and CEO of Undress Snacks. We're on a mission to change the snack bar space from sweet to savory with our patented shelf-stable savory green bar with over a serving of delicious vegetables. and require no fork, no bowl, and no fridge. And thank goodness for that. It would be a lot tougher putting those things in my pocket. Thank you.
Nicely done. You can just hand your microphone. Thank you. Liberated greens, greens in your pocket, salad in your pocket. Interesting concept. Erin, what are your initial thoughts on undressed greens?
I like the concept. You know, the salad in your pocket has a nice ring to it, and I appreciate that. And I think people are always looking for stuff on the go and portability. And I think most bars play in like a sweet flavor profile. So I think to introduce something that's savory but also has a serving of vegetables in each bar is a really smart idea.
Mm-hmm. Anna Maria, the bar category, very competitive. What are your initial thoughts in terms of the disruption that this brand is bringing to that space?
I think it's a very interesting concept. There is really nothing like it. I had the opportunity to try the savory salad bar and the berry balsamic. I think it would be good to add more flavors to the mix to really bring the brand exposure. And also, in terms of packaging, just call out more what the concept is. I think that was a little bit lacking. And for customers who are really looking into a grab-and-go solution, it would be good just to call out that it's truly a salad in a bar and on the go. So that would be the suggestion. But yeah, curious about price point and the strategy to go to market with this brand.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, I saw you nodding your head talking when Anna Maria was talking about packaging. Is this something that you would pick up and put in your pocket?
Yeah, so I love the concept again. It was really brilliant, but I wish that it said on the packaging like salad bar. I'd read her autobiography and the background of the story online, and I thought it was so brilliant that she said salad bar, and I just wish, even in the tagline it said a salad bar. The other thing I really love is everything is so sweet, and especially in the bar section, and the fact that it's savory and there's no dates. I feel like everything has dates in it anymore. So I think she nailed the savory for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Johnny, a lot of times brand owners will say they're creating, a solution to a problem. Do you see this as that solution to a problem that exists in the bar category, in that there are not as many bars like this?
I think there's definitely a space here. This one is a little bit of a weird, technical challenge. I love the idea. I love the concept. We launched like a Larabar fruit and greens bar a while back, and we came into this weird little dynamic where when you take the water out of a lot of vegetables, it like concentrates the flavor a lot. So like a kale, it gets like really bitter. And a lot of folks weren't able to palate that because you lose all the brightness that comes with putting vegetables in there. So I love the concept. It is a truly difficult technical challenge to kind of like try to tackle. But if you are able to, and I think this one probably still needs a little bit of work, I think there's a big opportunity there. Fantastic.
Great feedback. All right, on to our next semifinalist. That's Amy Keller, who is the co-founder and CEO of Pure Plus. Amy? How are you? Just please mind your timer.
So, I come from sugar. What does that mean? Well, my family is Spangler Candy Company, and we make 2 billion Dum Dum lollipops every year, along with a lot of other nostalgic candy. But I'm also a 7-time Ironman and an environmentalist who set out to combine my personal passion for sustainability and health with my family business. So I'm creating a climate candy that's good for you and good for the planet. So imagine a world where fruits and vegetables taste like candy. Faves, the first climate candy, has set out to solve the climate crisis by preventing food waste, by upcycling perfectly good fruits and vegetables to create a candy that's good for you and good for the planet. Faves makes both healthy choices and climate impact more accessible. Faves works with local farms across the US to procure imperfect produce that otherwise would go to waste. 90% of people don't get their 5 to 8 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, and with each pack of Faves, we provide a serving of fruits and vegetables. You get 1 carrot, a half a beet, a slice of squash, a slice of pumpkin, and a slice of sweet potato. We have a transparent supply chain. We're also building a carbon tracker so consumers can measure how many fruits and vegetables they're saving every time they eat Faves. The global market for candy is $80 billion. The market is ripe for alternatives to sugar and filler. Because food is fuel, we're also an alternative to all the zeroed out label candy. Faves is currently direct to consumer and e-commerce. We're partnered with Snack Magic, and in Q1 we'll be in Thrive Market, Amazon, and Good Egg. And we're also getting knocks on our door for retail and for Q3 of next year. We build a team of consumer brand leaders that work with us, from Just Water, Beyond Meat, This Bar Saves Lives, and Plum Organics. And we bring value as this alternative solution to wasted produce to deliver nutrition to new consumers. And our goal 2 million pieces of produce.
There you go. Hold on. You can just please send that through. Nicely done. Danielle, you have a mission component to, or a social mission component, excuse me, a mission-driven component to your brand as well. Do you see, Faves as their positioning and their mission as aligned in terms of what you see in the package?
I don't really see it on the packaging. It's definitely on their website. So I think it's hard. I don't know what maybe the back, I think they should definitely put something on the back if they haven't. I think consumers are, want to know that, there's some sort of a nonprofit component, but it has to make sense. And she clearly sounds passionate about all the, all of her nonprofit. So yeah, I think it's, I tasted it, and it tastes like a Starbucks burst, so I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it really is identical to a Starburst. So.
Well, that's a huge thing. It sounds like a pretty innovative concept, and I think Amy mentioned that this is fruits and vegetables, or the world's first candy made out of fruits and vegetables. Sounds very Willy Wonkish. Johnny, is that a proposition that excites you?
I think that's it's an interesting one because it has the danger of being a little bit of warm tea because it's a candy aisle, right? And you want the things to taste great, and the product does taste really great. Mm-hmm. I think what the benefit, I love the climate story and all those other pieces to it as well. I think what this one is really going to be predicated on that pricing piece, especially when you talk about we versus me benefits is what we call them. When things for saving the world and everything like that, the price slopes are very, very sensitive. Where folks are willing to pay a little bit for those types of things, but not necessarily a whole bunch. I think that would be one thing that we would want to hear about and learn more about.
Mm-hmm. Erin, when I think about Faves, I think this seems like a brand that could play to a lot of different people. Do you see it that way as well? Do you see this as a brand that could go across, kids to adults?
I definitely do. I think that within the upcycling space, it's a smaller but growing kind of subcategory of products. But I think if the brand kind of plays into that larger idea of climate candy and kind of just the general idea of sustainability and where they're sourcing their products and things, consumers are increasingly more interested in sustainable products and the impact of the food that they're eating. So I think if they play into that, they can definitely reach a wide swath of consumers. Mm-hmm.
And Anna Maria, Danielle mentioned these products are one of the products that she tasted like a Starburst. That sounds like a good thing to me. What do you think about the taste?
I had just the opportunity to try one, but yeah, I think the taste was good. It's just, I think that going back to the conversation before is how you make sure that in the packaging it calls out what it is, so you can grab it as you see it, that it has an amazing story behind. I also had the opportunity, like Danielle, to check the website, and I didn't see that translating into the packaging. So for a category that is so competitive, it would be good to just have something that really calls out the message, what it has. The upcycle concept is amazing, and it's great that they're addressing that as a sustainable product and initiative.
Fantastic. Great feedback. Let's move on to our next semifinalist. That's Michelle Razavi, who is the founder and CEO of Elavi. Come on up. How are you?
Please just mind your timer. Just what? Hi, I'm Michelle, one of the founders and CEO of Elavi, a wellness brand on a mission to reinvent modern nutrition and boost longevity, all while tasting delicious. We launched just under 2 years ago with our collagen-boosted protein bars and have already formulated a brand new product line about to launch in a plant-based superfood spread. So we're more than a bar company. My co-founder and I met while teaching at Equinox. We taught fitness classes, and we also worked very demanding office jobs. Nikki was at PwC, I was at Sephora Corporate. So a glimpse into our days, we were waking up at 5 a.m., teaching a HIIT fitness class, working all day, teaching another HIIT fitness class. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. And so at that time, we really struggled with feeding our bodies on the go. We had no time. And we struggled finding a bar that, in a crowded market, still couldn't deliver on taste that we look forward to, something that we can trust wouldn't upset our stomach with sugar alcohols and whey dairy protein, and something that offered functional benefits for energy and recovery. And so in that process to solve our own problem, we ended up discovering a way to integrate collagen efficiently and successfully into shelf-stable products. And so with our unique advantage as fitness instructors, we've been able to very efficiently onboard fitness ambassadors and bootstrap a lean, pandemic-proof business with a business and a brand that consumers love and trust. And that's evidenced by a repeat purchase rate 40% higher than industry average. We're sold mostly online, D2C and Amazon. We're shelf-stable, no refrigeration required, ship very easily. And we're also in specialty retailers such as Erewhon and Equinox cafes here in Los Angeles. Our plan is to continue accelerating our growth with our new product line extension, expand into food service and natural retailers, and continue building our brand with wellness and content.
Outstanding. Could you please take my phone? Thank you. Elavi, snackable collagen. Erin, I'm sure you've written tons of stories about collagen, snacking. These two collide in Elavi. What are your initial thoughts?
I think it's definitely an interesting idea, and I really like the fact that they're individually portioned, because I think portion control is really a big trend right now, and being able to grab just one on the go is a really good idea. I think that the only kind of disconnect I'm seeing is perhaps, the packaging kind of looks more like sports nutrition-y, and sometimes collagen is more in the beauty space. So I'm kind of trying to understand how those two kind of ideas come together within the packaging and kind of how it's marketed to consumers. But I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, the flavors that Elavi has will definitely help to introduce the brand to new consumers or consumers looking for this type of product. Did they fit into what you were looking for in terms of the brand?
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with that. My one question that I would love to know is about the collagen, because I see that it's non-GMO, but we had tried to use collagen a few years ago before the pandemic, and sourcing collagen can be kind of tricky. So that would be my only thing that I'd want to learn more about, is how they're sourcing that. But yeah, on to Erin's point, I do think the packaging looks upscale, but I do hear what she's saying about maybe being a little too much like, in the nutrition space. But I thought the gold, I liked it, so.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, in terms of the concept, you have snackable collagen once again. Is this something that consumers are looking for? Is this something that investors are looking for?
I think the collagen is just a piece of it. I think it's a way in. I love what you guys did here. The concept is kind of like it's like performance nutrition that has like a little bit of a female bent, right? Like the packaging looks more like almost like a beauty packaging, which I love. I love the spirit of your packaging. And a lot of the performance nutrition stuff out there has that like male bent, like Quest bar, and it's like super aggressive, and this is more for you. And I think collagen is a way that you use to articulate that, right? And that's awesome. It's really cool. I thought the product was it was tough for me to get through, and I know that a lot of folks in performance nutrition are willing to make sacrifices for those types of things, but I think that's one thing that, as you go through it, continue to work on. The macros are killer, but how can you get the taste to get a little bit more approachable, so you can open up the bell-shaped curve a little bit? Yeah. I love the positioning. I love a lot of the things you're doing. Yeah.
Anna Maria, in terms of the nutrition profile, the product attributes, you have 8 grams of protein, 120 calories, gluten-free, dairy-free, no fake sugar. Do these check the boxes that retailers are looking for?
I will say so. Personally, I like when companies don't use too much of stevia and monk fruit. So the fact that they're using honey as part of the ingredients to make it more sweeter, I enjoyed that when I tried the product. So I will say that the fact that they also list that as no sugar added and having all the clean ingredients in the packaging is something that customers will gravitate to.
Fantastic. Once again, great feedback. And on to our next semi-finalist. That's Gina Shi, who is the founder and CEO of Munchrooms. Gina?
Hi everyone, my name is Gina and I'm the founder of Munchrooms, a 100% mushroom jerky company based in San Francisco. Our mission is to make healthier snacking more sustainable and achievable with our meat alternative proteins. We upcycle the stems of shiitake mushrooms to recreate a delicious, meaty, pull-apart texture that's similar to beef jerky. In fact, some of our customers, when trying Munchrooms for the very first time, are blown away by the fact that they're in fact eating a product that is 100% vegan and 0% beef. Mushrooms themselves have been used for thousands of years for both their medicinal as well as their general health benefits. 1 pack of Munchrooms will give you 6 grams of protein, 50% of your daily vitamin D needs, 60% of your daily fiber needs, and so much more. Since we launched last summer, we have been growing tremendously. We are available in over 40 specialty shops across the nation. We are sold online, direct to consumer, both on our own website and Amazon.com. We also have B2B online channels through companies like Snack Magic as well as Hive brands. In addition to our 4 delicious flavors, we have 4 adorable corresponding flavor mascots, each with its own unique style and personality. We hope to use them as a platform in the future to help educate children and adults alike about the wonderful world of mushrooms themselves, as well as about sustainability efforts. In the future, we not only want to expand our line of mushroom jerky flavors, but we also want to increase our portfolio to include other mushroom snacks, sauces, beverages, and more. Thank you.
Nice done. If you can just please stand, actually. Thank you. Munchrooms. Gina mentioned that some people are blown away by the taste, the flavor, the fact that it's only plant-based. Danielle, what do you think of the taste?
It was amazing. I mean, it blew my mind even at 7 in the morning. It was so good. Like, you nailed the flavor. So, bravo. I think everybody would love them. I could see people not even realizing they're eating mushrooms. I wish there was a way to explain it better on the packaging, you know, so people wouldn't hesitate. But, like, in an airport, I would grab them every time. They're so good.
Yeah, let's stay on the packaging. Johnny, your initial thoughts on how Munchrooms is presenting themselves?
Yeah, I thought the product was awesome. It was like the texture too, amazing. Yeah. Like it just felt just like a jerky. To that point, I do think the packaging looks kind of like almost a farmer's market-y scale. I think you have such a killer product here. You could really blow this thing out to make it feel and like get people to think about it differently. Because it looks so close. I'm not sure if most people would even notice that. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. Aaron, we're seeing more and more plant-based jerkies come to market. As we continue to see that segment scale and grow, what do you think about the potential for a brand like Munchrooms?
I think it has a lot of potential. I mean, as everybody has said, we were all blown away by the flavor. It's just has a very similar texture to meat, which I'm sure a lot of people who are interested in jerky are looking for that kind of texture, so they really scored big on the texture there. And I think the only thing, going back to the comments on the packaging, it's saying things like magically satisfying and things like that. I think maybe it's like kind of a show versus tell situation where maybe you want to tell consumers, why it's satisfying because they don't really know the health attributes of mushrooms compared to a typical meat jerky. So I think that's something that they could improve upon, but the product is great and they have a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. And Anna Maria, staying on that, Gina talked a bit about the growth strategy, the plan to scale for Munchrooms. Did you hear things in there that would sort of whet your palate beyond the flavor itself?
I will say that something that will be beneficial for them will be to add more of those benefits in the packaging to call the attention to customers. There are other suppliers that are trying to get into that space. So just for them, how they're going to differentiate in terms of pricing, in terms of calling out what is different about what they do, the flavors that they use. I would like them to use a natural preservative too. I noticed that they're using an artificial one, so I think that, again, if they want to be competitive with other brands that are out there, it will be good for them to switch that and also have a good pricing strategy to go to market.
All right, good stuff. All right, on to our next semifinalist for Pitch Slam 11, NOSH Pitch Slam 11. It's Bob Gruder, who is the CEO of Bob's Naturals. Come on up, Bob.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm Bob from Bob's Natural, and I bet if you ask your doctor or your personal trainer the best way to maintain your health, they'd say eat well, work out. The working out part is obviously on you, but the eating well, it's really difficult, particularly in the morning. People are on the go, professionals are running out, grabbing a protein bar, or they want to feed their kids, and there's nothing nutritious. In fact, if you go to the frozen aisle in your grocery store, in fact, many of you may not even be going there anymore, but you'll see that it's just a sea of yellow and red boxes, just a blur of empty calories. Nothing really has truly been innovated in the frozen aisle for over a decade. Well, I wanted to try and create something new. In fact, I spent an eternity in the kitchen, or at least it felt like an eternity in the kitchen. And I finally found the right blend of ingredients to create something called Power Pies. Power Pies are made with all natural ingredients like almonds and dates, rolled oats. And all you do is you take it out of the box. It's a frozen item to keep it fresh. Take it out of the box, put it in a crisping sleeve, put it in the microwave oven for 65 seconds, and you have your Power Pie. Or you can put it in the toaster oven for a crispier crust. There's also an optional icing packet made with all plant butter, almond milk, all natural ingredients as well. There's 9 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber in each pie, very low added sugar to it. And the retail price on it is $5.99, which is a pack of 4. The frozen aisle is growing at 16% a year, and it's also a $4.3 billion market, which evidences that the market is growing and people want something on the go, but there really are no healthy alternatives. And that's why Power Pies were created. So we like to say, turn your breakfast meh to breakfast yeah. Thank you.
I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I grew up eating toaster strudels and Pop-Tarts and things like that. So this looks really good to me. But Anna Maria, do you understand the concept when you look at the packaging?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. We don't have anything like that in the frozen aisle. I think the packaging will probably need more explanation about what it is. And being in the natural channel, I will say that it will be good for them to list more what the natural ingredients are and maybe look into a non-GMO certification and maybe some of that research that they're doing in terms of benefits being more clear on the packaging.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, it feels like there's a certain amount of indulgence and nutrition that are sort of blended into Power Pies. When you ate these products, did you kind of feel both?
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that it has so much protein and fiber in it. It did feel indulgent. I mean, I feel like it was an oatmeal kind of pie is what I was getting. And I love the fact that the icing was on the side because, again, I feel like everything's so sweet. So I'm glad you took that away. But I agree with Anna Maria. Like, I'd like to see it called out more. So I really felt like I wasn't just eating a pie for breakfast.
Mm-hmm. And Aaron, would you eat... If you ate Power Pies, would you feel like your breakfast went from meh to yeah?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I did used to eat toaster strudel and Pop-Tarts for breakfast as a kid, so this isn't too far away from that. I think other people have kind of references as well, but you know, the Power Pies name, I wasn't really sure going into it, you know, what the use occasion was, if it was going to be a dessert, or it was going to be breakfast, or somewhere in between. So I think that maybe you could work on calling that out a little bit better, just so consumers know when they should be eating this.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, the frozen category, challenging space. But are customers looking for a product like this, and do you see some scalability in terms of what they've created?
Yeah, I love the idea of like I really like the idea of like an upmarket toaster strudel. And I see you had to go frozen because you, like the water activity in the fruit, like you can't use as much sugar to soak it up. Otherwise it can like leach out a little bit. So I know it kind of like melts in together, so it becomes like a little bit more of a baked oatmeal. It was delicious. It actually tasted really, really good. Probably one of my favorite samples of the morning. I think it is a little bit of that gray area, the warm tea of, it's pretty indulgent, and like does that kind of get in the way of maybe some of the health benefits that it might have, and how frequently can you eat something as indulgent? You know, we find the same thing with our toaster strudel business, where people might crack it open just on the weekends or on a special occasion, and it just limits the amount of volume you can get out of it.
All right, fantastic. All right, moving on. We'll bring up to the stage now is Shelly Marshall, who is the co-founder of True Scoops. Shelly, come on up. Nice to meet you.
Hi guys, my name is Shelly Marshall and I'm the co-founder of True Scoops. We're a woman-owned business operating out of Beverly, Massachusetts, and we make shelf-stable ice cream and topping mixes that make the process of making ice cream fast and easy for our customers. Now, during the pandemic, my 2 kids had a craving for ice cream, of course, but we couldn't leave the house. I'm an ice cream maker by trade, and I know how long and complex the process is. You have to heat milk, cream, sugar, add tempered eggs, and age the base overnight. Anyone with kids know that they don't have the kind of patience for that. So I realized at this moment that there was an opportunity for a better DIY ice cream experience. And it got me thinking, what if Betty Crocker married her favorite pint of ice cream and they had a baby? Wouldn't that be so easy? True Scoops was created to eliminate all of those steps. All you have to do is add half and half and follow the instructions on the back of the pouch. Each mix makes 2 pints of ice cream, and each topping mix makes 8 ounces of sauce. Our vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry retail for $9.99, and our hot fudge and salted butterscotch retail for $5.50. And we think that's on par with the brands in the industry. We created a product that we think is both innovative and clever. No refrigeration is needed to store our mixes. Unlike frozen ice cream, it is light and inexpensive to ship without the need of dry ice. We're peanut-free, gluten-free, and kosher certified. But most importantly, and we think this is what sets us apart, is that you do not need an ice cream maker. You can just use a simple blender to make our ice cream. We launched this business in July of this year and are currently selling direct-to-consumer on our website and wholesale through Fair and Pod Foods. We're working to get ourselves shelved in more independent, more specialty stores and larger grocery outlets, and are in talks with a lot of large corporate gifting companies and food subscription boxes. Further into the future, we plan on targeting food service, particularly restaurants. True Scoops has taken the fuss out of
Sorry, but well done. Please hand your microphone. I hate that gong. I really do. Really do. Gotta get something better than that. True Scoops, it seems like a really innovative concept. Anna Maria, when you first saw this, did you see it that way? And what do you think about the education component that's going to be involved in scaling this brand?
Well, I think that it's interesting because the concept was born when customers couldn't go out to the stores and shop for their favorite products or buy ice cream. So now that things are changing a little bit in terms of consumer behavior, I would like to understand more the strategy of where do they see this product being merchandised in the stores and how they can educate customers about what the product is all about. And maybe understanding if they're diversifying a little bit now that customers can buy ice cream, will they be looking also at extending maybe on toppings or anything that doesn't put them in a position that is only making ice cream, but also how to enhance that experience when customers are eating ice cream at home.
Mm-hmm. Danielle, does this idea excite you in terms of sort of making ice cream at home, doing something for your kids? I think, as Anna Maria mentioned, there's an experiential component to this.
Yeah, I love the idea, and as I said before, I love ice cream, so I thought you really nailed the texture, which was pretty phenomenal. But to add on to what Anna Maria is saying, my concern would be how often I would make it, and the scalability if you're just so pigeonholed into the ice cream section. But I love that it's shelf stable. You don't have to worry about all the logistics of frozen, which is a nightmare right now. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of merchandising this product, I think Anne-Maria and Danielle touched on this. Johnny, I mean, in terms of where it fits on the store, are customers, based on the packaging and based on the proposition, going to see it and pick it up off the shelf? Do you see that?
Yeah, I think this one is the shelving is a really complicated thing. Like, is it more in the baking aisle, where like the DIY section, or more in the ice cream aisle? I think that the corollary that she built with Betty Crocker, I think, is a really interesting one, right? Because for Betty Crocker, when you're baking, you get like this payoff that's worth the friction, where there's like freshly baked cookies, Versus ice cream, I'm not sure if the delta is quite as large for like the ice cream that you make yourself versus the ice cream that you can buy in the store. That payoff. So I think that's the real question here: is that friction going to be worth the squeeze for folks and the difference in experience?
Mm-hmm. In terms of the packaging and the presentation. I shouldn't inject my own opinion here, but Erin, what do you think?
I like it. It's very simple and whimsical, and I like the colors. I think it goes really well with what the product is. I think the only thing that I might call out, and I don't know if this is perhaps on the back of the packaging, but the fact that there's no ice cream maker needed is something that might stop somebody from buying it if they see it and they say that looks great, but I don't have an ice cream maker at home. So I think that's an important call out to show how convenient this is versus other ice cream mixes.
All right, great feedback. All right, up next we have Nicholas Nicario, who is the founder and CEO of Umli. Nicholas, come on up. Did I get any of that right?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Pretty sure we all love cookies. Well, most of us do. It is an $11 billion industry in the US. And in the past couple of years, I've found that the classic brands have a bunch of junk and they taste really good, but you likely don't want to eat those cookies on an everyday basis. And the so-called health brands are taking out the bad ingredients, but they haven't really put anything good back in. So that's where we come in. I created Umli to put the good back into cookies while also maintaining a great taste integrity. So I launched Umli in 2021, about 6 months ago, and I've wanted to start this brand for years. I developed the recipe and shelf life in 2019 and directed the branding process with about $15,000 from my aunt and an angel investor after they tried the cookies and they clearly liked them. What's so special about us? We're disrupting the cookie and snack category and driving new growth to the cookie aisle. Our cookies are really meant for active consumers that haven't been able to go back into the cookie aisle because there are no viable alternatives. And there are no cookies for regular consumption. So our cookies have a bunch of benefits. They're made with root vegetables, nuts, and fruits, and they have balanced macronutrients. Think of like an RX bar or a Kind bar, but better for you, that tastes like cookies. They have prebiotics, and they have immunity-boosting ingredients, and in 2022, they'll be 100% plant-based and have a little bit more protein. We're in about 125 retail stores right now, and we're the #1 new chocolate chip cookie brand on Amazon. And more importantly, I started this mission from a deep struggle with food, and I am here to...
Just please hand your microphone. Thank you. Nicholas mentioned that it's almost like a Kind bar or an RX bar in cookie form. Johnny, what do you think of that?
I thought the product was delicious for the macros. You did a great job of it's a super tough balancing act because you try to chase those macros too hard, it gets really dry, chalky, and all that sort of stuff, really dense. I thought you did a really great job with the product here.
Yeah, in terms of the brand proposition, fruits, nuts, vegetables in a cookie, Anna Maria, is this something that more and more consumers are looking for, is more fruit, vegetables, nuts, things like that in their sweets?
Absolutely, and I think the benefits of the added probiotics into the bar it was something unique that we don't see in every bar. Love the packaging, love how they're calling out the ingredients in the back of the packaging as well. I think in terms of sugar, it will be something that I will look more understanding why they will add sugar to a bar if they're already using monk fruit and I believe they're using apple juice to sweeten the bar, so maybe it was excessive there, but I think the texture and everything was pretty good, and I love the 100% recyclable packaging.
Yeah. Erin, I love soft cookies. Love soft cookies. Do you? And did they sort of fit the bill for, or did Emily fit the bill for you?
Yeah, I also love soft cookies.
Hey, all right.
They're the best. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the flavor. You know, as I said, you know, previously, you know, when you have a functional product, those kind of macros, you might not always deliver on taste, but I think it was a pleasant surprise of how good it tasted.
Mm-hmm. And Danielle, I mean, I think, you know, in some ways, Nutso and Emily are positioned in the same way in that they're offering something better than what's currently available. Do you like what you saw in terms of the presentation, the packaging, the whole proposition?
Yeah, I mean, for being such a young brand, I have to say, great job on the packaging. Like, you really nailed it. And I love the name. I think it's really memorable and easy to remember. I tried the dark chocolate cookie that was kind of like a brownie, soft, and it was really good. So great job on the balancing act of getting all those micros and macros in there. But yeah, great job.
Fantastic. All right. On to our next semi-finalist for this edition of the NOSH Pitch Slam. That's Richard Pauwels, who is the co-founder of Rich Nuts. Come on up, Rich.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rich, and I am the founder of Rich Nuts, a gourmet sprouted nut brand. And yes, I am wearing a kilt. Now, we sit uniquely at the intersection of gourmet flavor and high-impact nutrition. So I worked for 20 years as a firefighter and paramedic, and during the last 12 years of my career, I worked in Malibu, and I quickly discovered that there was no healthy food on a brush fire. We'd be out there for 10 or 12 hours, and the only options were prison sack lunches, MREs, or fast food. None of that worked for me. So I started eating a lot of raw, organic cashews and organic trail mix. And instead of getting the energy I needed to fight those brush fires, I got digestive issues. So I did some research, and I found out that by sprouting, I could eliminate the anti-nutrients that were causing my digestive woes. At that point, I was like, wow, this is great. I got rid of my digestive problems. But now I had a soggy nut that I couldn't really eat or keep in my bag for 3 months. So what I did was I broke out the old dehydrator from the garage, and I started dehydrating them. That brought back the crunch we all love and preserved them naturally. I had one last challenge to overcome, and that was the flavor. Once I created these now crunchy, healthy nuts that taste kind of bland, I was like, what am I going to do now? So I went into my backyard, I grabbed some sage and rosemary, and I started experimenting. I added some liquid aminos, and next thing you know, I had this delicious flavor, savory sage. And boom, that thing was a hit. I started sharing it with all my friends, fellow firefighters, and family. And I quickly realized that this was not going to be sustainable because I was spending more than $700 a month on organic cashews and giving them away. So at that point, I told all my friends and family, hey, you guys are going to have to start paying me for this. And that's basically how Rich Nuts was born. Thank you for your time.
Well done. Please say that. Thank you. Danielle, you know a thing or two about nuts, right?
Few things.
Yeah. What do you think about Rich Nuts in terms of the flavor of what you tasted?
Yeah, they dialed it right in. I mean, the flavor is phenomenal. I really love the fact that the differentiation of the sprouted, and that's really hard to do, especially on a cost basis. My one suggestion is just that I would rather than making a secondary on your packaging, which the packaging is great, I would really call it out because it is when I'm running through the airports, seeing sprouted and something healthy, I would just grab it. I don't care if it's $25. You know what I mean? But great job.
Yeah, I mean, nuts in general could be looked at as a commodity kind of item, but in terms of elevating it to a premium level, Johnny, what do you think of the approach for Rich Nuts?
Yeah, I thought the sprouted benefit was really interesting too. The one thing was that it was almost like you were saying, there's almost one too many things there where The flavors on top of the sprouted, it got a little bit unclear to me. Like, what was the key benefit? Because a lot of times when you do something with a functional benefit, you go in with a core, like a solid core, and then you use flavors as more like buy rate plays, so that you can keep people in the ecosystem and keep them engaged. But you have to solidify that core first. And I think that sprouted piece of it and your execution of it to keep it crunchy was enough. And you should scream that loud and proud.
Anna Maria, Rich's backstory in terms of why he created this product seems pretty compelling. As a buyer, were you interested in hearing about why this brand is on the market, why he created this?
Well, I will say, so this is not a new concept. There are other brands that have already explored that space in the past. But I think this product is unique in the way the seasoners had the right blends with the right nut. And just like Danielle said, I think that there is a secondary packaging needed here for that grab-and-go proposition, for the registers or for, like at the airports, like she mentioned before. That would be something unique. And I think that even adding a seasonal program or item or group of items that can translate into that seasonal flavors will be something that will be good for this brand to explore.
Erin, you get the last word. Rich Nuts, did you like what you see? What do you think in terms of your opinion on the brand?
I really liked them. The taste was great, as everybody has said, and the flavors are great. I think the only thing I would echo what the other judges have said is, bringing out that sprouted concept on the packaging, making that clear. I'm not sure if the everyday consumer even knows really what it means to be a sprouted nut, and I know on the back of the packaging kind of lists all those benefits, digestive health and things like that, so are easier to digest. So I think that, if you kind of call that out on what benefits do sprouted nuts have over the typical nut, then that could help grab some more consumers.
All right, great feedback. All right, our final guests, or our final semifinalists for this edition of NOSH Pitch Slam 11 are Brianna Atkinson and Jared Goldstein, who are the co-founders of Kokata. Come on up. Thank you.
This might be surprising. I love nut butter. I was the kid housing peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, you name it. But as I got older, I realized there weren't too many options outside of the traditional butters that we all know and love. I kept looking for a sweet butter that would satisfy my nasty sweet tooth, but without the refined sugars. So Jared and I went into our kitchen and we started experimenting. Inspired by my Jamaican culture, we created Kokata, the original coconut-based spread. Our two flagship flavors are our classic coconut flavor up on the screen here, and our brownie flavor tastes like a spreadable macaroon. And we realized that after sharing with friends and family, this spread's different than other things in the nut butter category. We are peanut-free, cashew almond-free, no refined sugars added, no preservatives, but you can enjoy it just like the Nutter butters that we all know and love.
And that's been a huge reason why our customers fell in love with us from day one. And day one for us has only actually been just over a year ago. Since then, we've focused on expanding past our D2C e-commerce business, and we launched in Amazon as well as in retail. Now, looking forward to 2022, we plan on expanding our retailer partnerships and entering new geographies as well. Additionally, we're going to double down on our B2B partnerships with ice cream shops, smoothie shops, bakeries, others of the like, to drive additional brand awareness and to also get our product into more hands of eventual consumers. We are bringing the first ever naturally sweet coconut-based spread to the market, and we know that everybody is going to love it. And I think that that's really what we're here to offer. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Thank you. I'm not familiar with too many coconut spreads. Erin, have you seen any types of products like this in the market? What do you think of the potential for Kokata?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential. I mean, there are a lot of spreads on the market right now. I'm not sure of one that's particularly like this. I think it's pretty unique, and the taste is great, and I like the story of it coming from your Jamaican roots. I think that's really great, and the taste is great. Packaging is beautiful, so I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. Texture, Danielle, what do you think about Kokata in terms of the spreadability, the sort of day part usage of this type of product?
Yeah, I was very excited to try this one, of course, and I love the fact it was kind of like a honey as far as the consistency, but so much less sweet, which I loved. Again, I'm talking about sweet all the time. And so I think it's a great, the one thing I was thinking, I mean, I get why you would want to be in the nut butter spread section because you're, highlighting the coconut, but even in like the honey jam section, the jam section is huge. And even if you could get both placements, that would be a great opportunity. And I love that you're using some coconut something that's kind of that sweetness, so it's, and maybe if there's a way to tell why you're using it on the packaging because it was really unique.
Yeah, Johnny, let's talk about that why. Are consumers looking for this type of product? I mean, and the call out of the original coconut spread, is that something that's going to attract consumers, do you think?
I agree. I think it is kind of like a little bit closer to a honey than like a traditional nut butter, just the flavor profile a little bit sweeter or jam. And I think I'm not personally a coconut person, and it's pretty coconut forward. It's like the entire thing. So I think there is going to be maybe a limit to how big it could be, but there's definitely a market here to be had.
Anna Maria, would you agree? I mean, it seems like they do have a pretty innovative concept, but how do you feel about it?
I think this is a unique product. It's not a product that you look for, but you discover in the aisles. I like the fact that they share recipes online because it's multi-purpose product. I thought that the taste was right on. It reminded me of a South American dessert that is also called Kokata. And I don't know if it was on purpose or not, the name, but it is definitely a good name for it. Love the fact that you're giving back to communities in the process, and you call it out on the labels. You also call out the benefits and the ingredients. So great job on all of the on checking all the boxes.
Outstanding, and great job by all of our semifinalists. This is a tough competition. I think everyone did incredibly well. Well done. I want to bring it back to the judges real quick. I just want to ask, from what you saw today, 6 brands are going to move on to the finals tomorrow. As they prepare to move on, what are some of the things that you'd want to see more of? What do you think some of the things that they should be highlighting in that presentation if they make it to the finals tomorrow? Danielle, let's start with you.
I would definitely add the cost. Some people did, but it is good to know because that's going to be the number one thing that people look at when they look on the shelf. Besides your amazing packaging, is the price. So,
Johnny?
Yeah, I think the just like the problems to be solved and being really tight around like the discrete market need or the TAM, the taps that you're trying to tackle, I think would be super helpful.
Erin?
Yeah, I think price point is definitely, as was mentioned, a big thing, and I think as well just trying to get across, the main differentiator, the main mission of the brand, and not making sure that's not lost in the smaller details of it.
Outstanding. And Anna Maria?
I will say strategy to go to market along with the pricing and the merchandising, especially for those brands that might be competing with other products that are already out there.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to hear from the judges. They're going to pick 5 brands to move on. The audience is going to pick 1 brand to move on. I'm so thankful that we had this incredible panel. Thank you once again to our judges. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to show a board here with the brand names corresponding to a number. Folks at home, and I think folks in our audience as well, please text the code to the code corresponding to your favorite brand to the number up there, 970-592-4430. You'll have until 10 a.m. Pacific time to vote. It's very important that you do. One of those brands, or the winning brand, will move on to the finals. Until then, we're going to go to break here at the Lowe's Santa Monica Beach Hotel. But for folks watching at home, we're going to go to our live stream studio. Stay tuned. We have some amazing guests on the show. And we'll be back here on the main stage at 10 a.m. to kick off the main stage portion of NOSH Live Winter 2021. Thank you so much. We'll see you all soon.
Presented by Snack Futures. I'm Mike Schneider, one of the co-hosts of Taste Radio, and today, right now, I'm joined by Alejandro Pedimonte, who is the Senior Global Brand Manager for Mauna Loa. welcome to the live stream.
Aloha. Thanks for having
Aloha.
us.
Oh, it's so nice to be to have you here. It's so nice to have a little bit of aloha on NOSH Live. Tell us a little bit about you first. Let's hear a little bit about your background.
Sure, would love to. I have been with Mauna Loa for 2.5 years, and it coincided right with the rebrand, so I'm super excited to have had such a great experience so far. Before that, I was working in brand management. I worked at the Hershey Company for a few years. There I was doing portfolio management, and then I also worked on the baking brand, which was so much fun. Great opportunity also to do a rebrand there. And then I moved over into the natural space to work at Palm Wonderful. So I was there for a few years before coming over to Mauna Loa.
So let's talk a little bit about Mauna Loa first before we talk about it, the rebrand. Mauna Loa is a brand that many, I would say, tourists associate with Hawaii, because when you go to Hawaii, you go to, say, the ABC store, and one of the first brands that you see is Mauna Loa. I personally was one of those people who had it every day. I mean, I would have a whole big bag. I loved the toffee covered macadamia nuts and the chocolate covered macadamia nuts so much, and it's one of those. It's a great indulgence. So I feel like it is synonymous with Hawaii. Tell us a little bit about the brand, and then we'll talk about the rebrand.
Yeah, sounds great. You hit the nail on the head. It is definitely synonymous with Hawaii. People visit Hawaii, and it's like on their list of things to buy as gifts, as souvenirs. We see it all the time on social media. People talk about going to Hawaii, and they snap pictures of their haul, which is great for us. We love that. And what we were thinking is, how do we use the love that is already for the brand and start making inroads in the mainland? Because you're right. Before, you had to go to Hawaii, and that's where you would purchase it, right? So now at the ABC store, which is a great partner of ours, amongst others in Hawaii. But yeah, so like now we want to make it accessible to people when they come back from Hawaii. And so that's why we're moving into gaining more distribution on the mainland.
So you have this brand, Mauna Loa, that's iconic, first of all. Also, it had that local Hawaiian feel to it. How do you, as somebody who's done a rebrand before and knows like that a rebrand is it's not an easy exercise, go in, take a brand like that everybody loves, and then just tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so it was very challenging, to your point, because it is much loved in Hawaii. So we had to be careful of what we were going to change, how we were going to transform the brand. So for these reasons, for example, we knew we were repositioning the brand into the health and wellness space in order to grow on the mainland. But at the same time, we didn't want to have the people who are like our legacy consumers who love and have loved us, bought us through so many years, to completely leave us. So what we wanted to make sure is that we honored them. And so for that reason, if you look at our packaging, 10 SKUs, 5 in savory, 5 in the sweet category, those all have different locations honoring Hawaii. And so we wanted to make sure that people in Hawaii who have always purchased us still loved the brand and knew that we, thought of them and honored them by doing that.
Is it a local brand? Is it, because for me, I've only experienced it as a tourist. I don't know how important to Hawaii the brand Mauna Loa is.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the headquarters is in Oahu. We're owned by Hawaiian Host Group, and then Mauna Loa is on the Big Island. So where our plant is as well. And it's been around for 75 years this year.
Very important.
Very important, yeah. So people know and love us. When people go to the Big Island, they come to the plant to do a tour. We have a visitor center, and they spend time there. And so it is a destination when people come, but it's also much loved by people who have always, grown up with Mauna Loa, given it as gifts. They have a tradition, too, of having it at Christmas. So very much it's steeped in their culture.
So how do you go about taking a 75-year-old brand and saying, we have to rebrand this? Because it is something that is, it could be something that, and in some rebrands that I've seen, there's a visceral reaction when you first see the rebrand. I didn't have one with Mauna Loa. I thought, oh, that's Mauna Loa. They've taken the brand to the next level. You've kept a lot of the elements from the previous, brand, but you've taken it to another level here. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, so we had a wonderful agency that we worked with, and they very much became educated in the Hawaii culture, spent time there, lots of deep conversations about what it means to be a company from Hawaii and what are the things that we cannot walk away from. So one of the main things, if you look at the rebranded packaging, is our Mauna Loa blue. It's very important when you go to Hawaii, when you go to some supermarkets, there's whole aisles that is just Mauna Loa. So it's like this sea of blue.
Yeah, that blue is so, it is Mauna Loa blue.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
like,
so we're
like the water of Hawaii blue.
Exactly. And so we knew like that was something that was untouchable. We need to make sure somebody walks into the aisle, they see the blue, it's instant recognizable. And because of that, then we knew we could play with other parts of the packaging because it was also, people are also going to just relate to that blue and then be curious about the different locations on the packaging.
And you've gone with I'd say a blockier style in terms of the Mauna Loa, but it has that Hawaiian feel to it. You've got the volcano in the logo. Talk to us a little bit about how many iterations do you go through before you get to something like this?
Well, what's really interesting is actually that this is a throwback. We had a logo that's very similar to this in the previous rendition. So we wanted to tap into that refined nostalgia. So the logo before this last one did have the mountains, which is Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea, which are on the Big Island. And so we wanted to bring that back. So it wasn't a revolution in the change of the logo. It was just a transformation from something that already existed in the past, and we modernized it.
It's vintage. It's what's old is new again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then the lettering.
It does look familiar to me.
Yeah, the lettering mostly stayed the same. We made some tweaks in order to, your point, make it more contemporary. But all in all, the logo is almost very similar to past logos.
The previous iteration had more of a, it looked like more, like some other local Hawaiian, products, maybe Hilo Hattie's-ish, sort of the Hawaiian flair to it. And now you've got sort of the more, this also Hawaiian flair, obviously, just more of the block, more of the volcano. I like it. Tell me a little bit about some of the products that you've launched now. You're into ice cream now with the rebrand.
Exactly, yes.
So just rebrand and launch a new product. No big deal for Mauna Loa.
Well, that was part of our strategy in order to capture this new consumer in the health and wellness space. So we knew that we could do that when we had permission with macadamia nuts. So macadamia nuts have this great healthy fat, which makes a great base for creamy ice cream. And so when we were thinking of how do we expand, it was ice cream kept coming up. We did research. We looked into other categories as well, and this one just kept coming up. So we decided to launch into ice cream, and we did so very successfully. Our product, we're the #5 brand in conventional right now. We just launched. It hasn't even been out for a year. In Q1 of 2022, we're going to be in an extra 2,000 stores. So people love the brand so far. The flavors, there are some that are original flavors like the chocolate, the vanillas, but we also have these very Hawaii flavors like mango lilikoi. Lilikoi is passion fruit in Hawaii. We also have strawberry guava. So really tapping into
saying all my favorite words.
tapping into our Hawaii inspired flavors. And then you guys here at NOSH broke the news that we are coming out with a new flavor in Q1, and it is called Molokai Sea Salt and Caramel. And Molokai is an island in Hawaii where they make sea salt. So we want to give back and also support other companies in Hawaii, and that's the way that we're doing it.
I'm having a really hard time not just eating all of these right here. What was the brand launch like? Tell us a little bit about that, because we just have a couple more. We have 30 seconds left here.
It was chaotic because it happened during COVID lockdown. I heard that a lot of brands decided not to move forward with innovation, and we did. And I feel like that's a great testament to senior leadership to be really courageous and keep moving on the path that we had set forward. So it was challenging, but we did it, and we made it on time, and we made this amazing brand and new product that lots of people love. So we're really, really proud of the progress that we made.
Never thought I would be with Mauna Loa on stage someday. This is so great. It was great to have you. Thank you so much. Mahalo for being here.
Yes, mahalo.
And aloha. It was great having you, Alejandra. So let's bring up Tappan Shah now, who's the Director of Capital at Mondelez Snack Futures. Come on up, Tappan. Great to see you, as always. Welcome. So, tell us a little bit about your role. You're newer to the Snack Futures team. We're used to seeing you maybe on the at BevNet Live, but welcome to NOSH Live.
It's odd not being in the beverage space for the first time in my life. I joined Snack Futures 6 months ago, running global venture capital work, which is the work I'd been doing for years in my previous roles, but with a really, a bigger team and doing more, a team working beyond just VC, looking at internal creation and more. So it's been great.
So your focus is on, investment in the future. Tell us a little bit about. I'm assuming that you're deeply. You're working closely with the collab team.
Yeah, very, very close with the collab team. I mean, it's like.
Well, but before we even say that, though, what is the collab team?
Yeah, good question.
Let's start there.
Yeah, so collab is is an accelerator platform, and it's similar to other accelerators that Strategics run or other independent organizations, in the sense that there is a little bit of working capital that is provided by Mondelez, but there's mentorship and there's the resources that an organization of our size and caliber bring to the companies, but Mondelez has really taken a really passionate, hands-on approach to collab, and so the energy inside the building, quote unquote, in our virtual world is phenomenal. So the support from our executives all the way down has just been tremendous. We just finished our first cohort, and we're recruiting for our second cohort. So I'll encourage all the founders to apply.
We definitely need to talk about this. We got to break this down a little bit here. So you said accelerator. Sometimes people hear the word incubator. What's the difference?
Yeah, so I think it's a good question, and they are very different in my mind, at least. Accelerators are for businesses that are in market, especially in the food and beverage world, where it's not an app where you could go on a hackathon overnight and launch an app. It takes time, it takes patience, it's complicated. But these, I look at an accelerator as brands are in market and getting resources to literally get from point A to point C in a faster way. Incubators are about creation in my mind. So it's bringing ideas to life. We're looking at brands that are in market, and we really want to be able to actually effectively use the resources and give them those resources that they can then take to their day-to-day job.
So who should apply?
Everybody? No, so,
But what are you looking for specifically?
Listen, the name, we are Snack Futures. We are one of the largest snacking companies in the world. And so our focus is, in the food world, in snacking. Snacking can be defined 1,000 different ways, as you and I both know. So I would say that there's really no wrong answer to who should apply, because ultimately we're looking for great founders, we're looking for great businesses, great opportunities, in the snacking world. So there's no, I don't want to I don't want to define it.
Okay, that's okay. So these founders who are applying, what kind of support can they expect from the Collab Accelerator?
Yeah, so first things first, it's our team. So, it's not just venture capital. There is an actual collab team. There are resources internally to Snack Futures across marketing, sales, operations, finance. So you're getting expertise on the day-to-day Snack Futures team. We bring in outside experts, a lot of people that we're friends with from that are here today and around the country, across all elements of business and the value chain. And then you have just the internal Mondelez resources. So you're getting mentors, we also have like a buddy, like, when you go on a field trip in 3rd grade, you have a buddy from Mondelez that kind of is like your Sherpa through the organization as well. So it's really, you're getting resources at all levels to support you kind of on a human level and on a business level, which I think is important.
And what sort of outcomes should a founder expect out of being involved in the Collab Accelerator?
I always look at it as founders, successful founders know you gotta be goal oriented. So what are your goals up front? And then with the team that we've assembled with you, let's define those goals and then work towards them. I think people overcomplicate things. It's not like you're coming into collab, you're not gonna all of a sudden get on Mondelez trucks. Like that's not practical. But there's a lot of things that we can do to help you as you think about your brand, as you think about the consumer insight, as you think about how you're building your P&L. And so define what your goals are, why collab is for you, and then those are the things that you plan for. People with a plan are the ones that can utilize these resources.
So I'm getting far beyond, as a founder, I'm getting far beyond strategic advice. I'm getting a lot of tactical advice, things I can actually take and move my business forward.
Absolutely, and you're getting emotional support. I always say this: founders sometimes need a shoulder to put their head on, and like we have people who, excuse my French, who give a shit. So I think that's important.
Well, what if there are pieces of my business that I haven't even thought about building out yet? Like, let's say I'm fresh out of the kitchen. I'm CEO, CMO, chief bottle washer. I don't have a sales team yet. Should I still apply, or do I need to be further down?
Absolutely.
Down the.
We can also help you think about who are the first people you should hire. How do you build out your team? Like, what's your skill set? So what do you go hire against? Like, those are we want to be helpful in that.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the experiences that you had with some of the brands in the prior cohort?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that I would point people to our website and to the video and kind of hearing the passion from the founders. But we had the breadth of brands that was in there was everything from founders that have been in the industry like Gavin and the McCloskey family at Lovecorn to founders that are still trying to figure out their way. Lovecorn, and to founders like Sydney Chasen, who's like still she's got this amazing pop sorghum product, trying to make her way, and everything in between. So everybody had just a different experience, but ultimately, do they feel better about their business at the end of the day? And I think that's not just a collab thing. That's the goal that we've set, but that's what these founders should expect.
I think one of the things that you said there was that you're looking for innovative, new kinds of experiences versus just sort of the better for you of something. So a sorghum, sorghum, that's totally new. That's not something that's
totally
that's widely known. So, and do you give a founder like that a little bit of all right, this is gonna be. Tell them a little bit about what that road's going to be like and what it's going to take to educate people on the next pop sorghum, or how does that go?
I mean, listen, you and I both know it's hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard, especially when you're creating something that nobody's seen before. It's hard, and so I cast no aspersions that it's like, man, you like uncover this insight and you're gold. Like it doesn't exist. That's not a real thought. And so it's be patient, be thoughtful, take feedback well. I mean, I think those are the things that when you're creating something new, you don't know, so you got to iterate as you go.
Is there any interaction with internal snack futures brands like Dirt Kitchen and Kapow? Do they get to interact with Katrina Borschuk and Shannon Newman at all?
They do
during the process.
Yeah, I mean that team is available. Katrina and Shannon, were mentors and like they're involved there as well, because ultimately, we're a big company. We do big really well, and we're getting better at small with the brand creation. And so I think that selfishly for Mondelez, there's a lot of amazing learnings that our team get from working with those founders as well. And so having that two-way relationship is amazing.
What about so you've had experience in incubators and accelerators before. So what is your what's your vision for the future of collab?
I think that it is what we make of it, right? We're a global company. Can we take this to other parts of the world? China, India, Europe, Latin America. I think that's something that we've noodled and we would hope to do. Can we do stuff with sustainability? Can we do stuff with technology? I mean, I think that the platform itself, while it still is going to, our vision is for it to always ladder back to what's relevant to Mondelez. But again, we're a big company. There's a lot of different ways we can take it. So, and we are going to do that.
So what I'm hearing is that there will be opportunities to have multiple cohorts, perhaps running at the same time or starting different times or things of that nature. And you have Mondelez, large company, has probably the resources.
I think everything is on the table. I think it's really just again, big companies have resources, but it's what's going to drive the most value.
Great. Well, Tappan, it's been awesome having you
Thank
here
you for having
on
me.
the live stream. Just sit with me for a second while I talk to those people about what's coming up next, which we've got an incredible program for you. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the state of the market. On stage with us is going to be Kabir Jain of Erewhon. You don't want to miss that. He's going to be joined by Gail Becker, who's the CEO of and founder of Cauliflower, and my friend Eugene Kang, who you might remember from our interview on Taste Radio, who is the founder and CEO of Country Archer. Later today, we're going to be joined by Wayne Wu of VMG, who's going to be on stage with Cynthia Tice of Lily, who's the CEO of Lily Sweets. We're going to have the NOSH Best of Awards. We've got Nick and Nick from TRUFF. We've got a super panel with Stu Strumwasser of Green Circle Capital on what's next for plant-based, so you don't want to miss it. And once again, thanks to Snack Futures, Mondelez Snack Futures for sponsoring this for presenting this whole thing, and stick with us. A lot for me to say there.
Are you curious about the benefits of becoming a BevNet and NOSH insider? Insiders have access to everything our websites have to offer. This includes insightful daily industry coverage, educational videos, original interactive programs, and our supercharged series of virtual events. There's a lot in here, I know, so here's an overview of the core offerings to help you learn more. Every day, you can expect our editorial team to keep you informed on the latest business happenings in food and beverage with insightful, data-packed articles. They have their fingers on the pulse of the industry and are the heartbeat of our organization. Join our editorial team for office hours. This is your chance to participate in a live, moderated discussion on common pain points featuring experts and founders. The conversation is recorded and then published for the rest of the audience to watch on demand. Sign up to jump out of the audience and ask those burning questions you just can't seem to get answered. On NOSH Market Share, we sit down with top executives and thought leaders to discuss key food industry news, ideas, and trends. These conversations aim to provide insight into the factors that led to success or failure and can help you navigate accordingly. Category Close-Up is a monthly deep dive into a prominent food and beverage category with founders and key executives. Brands can apply to participate for exposure in multiple ways, and of course, it's a fantastic way to stay apprised of what other players are doing. Elevator Talk is our series to highlight what's coming next. An investor guest host joins our very own Ray Latif every other week to meet and hear from the newest brands in the industry. This is a great opportunity for feedback and exposure for emerging brands. Our team is always looking for new participants, so don't hesitate to apply. Get connected through Speed Dating, our virtual platform to bring people together one-on-one, face-to-face. This is an opportunity to directly network with investors, brokers, designers, and other knowledgeable experts. Meetings are 7 to 15 minutes long, and we schedule as many as time will allow. We recommend using the time to build up towards a second meeting or to focus on getting feedback and referrals. Throughout the year, we host a variety of insider-only virtual events that focus on a particular theme. The events themselves consist of exclusive, on-demand video content, as well as scheduled live interactive discussions with the experts from the videos. Supercharge events often feature networking opportunities such as speed dating as well. There's obviously a lot that we offer exclusively to our insiders, and on behalf of the entire team, I want to extend an invitation to join our community, which includes thousands of food and beverage brands, retailers, investors, and other respected industry players. You can gain access to it all for just $49 a month, or save over $200 per year by choosing our annual payment option. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We hope to see you on the inside.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carol Ortenberg, the editor of NOSH, and I cannot believe I finally get to say it is so great to see everyone here. It's been a long 2 years since we were able to meet in person, and I am so thrilled to see each and every one of you, or at least your eyes and hair. I know it's been a long couple of years for everyone, and I recognize that you've struggled with issues from supply chain to labor shortages to packaging problems and distribution woes. And it's really easy at this point to feel tired and disappointed or frustrated. But despite the year's past challenges, I want to encourage you to not only push on, but recommit yourself to the values that make this industry great: sustainability, transparency, a focus on health, and above all else, making great tasting food. Now, it's easy to focus on just getting through the day at hand or what's gone wrong, and I completely understand that. But my fear is that if members of this industry don't push each other and themselves, we risk losing what's taken so long to build. For example, while supply chain challenges are certainly difficult, maybe this is an opportunity to rethink how ingredients are developed, grown, and harvested. Can we do this in a more sustainable manner? Is there a way to make employees feel supported, both financially and emotionally, so that the industry has the labor force it needs? Meanwhile, the pandemic has brought significant attention to the fact that what we eat, drink, and do can have a huge impact on our lives. So while consumers are aware that they need to take a moment and think about their diets, we still cannot become complacent and just assume that every consumer knows what keto or plant-based or low sugar means. Not to mention how to bring it into their own diets or has a local store that even sells these items at affordable prices. In some ways, I feel like in an attempt to differentiate themselves, brands have begun using language that can feel alienating or judgmental to consumers. And to do so is a mistake. The industry needs to speak not just to existing shoppers, but also the country at large. At times the past year, brands have also turned their ire on each other. Plant-based versus meat companies, veggie burger fans versus bleeds-like meat inventors, keto devotees versus whole grain enthusiasts. Yes, we need to vet all the claims made. But at the same time, if the products are improving customers' lives and the planet, isn't that the larger goal? Let's work together to make this a reality versus pulling others down. But enough about the negatives. My point is that it's okay to take some time today and tomorrow to talk to your fellow entrepreneurs and commiserate, ruefully laugh a bit, maybe have a drink or kombucha or two as you reminisce about the past couple years. However, I want to encourage you to make sure that's not the end of the conversation. Take a moment to talk to another brand, investor, or retailer to discuss not only how you can help each other, but also help more consumers. Let's promise that the pandemic will not slow us down, but rather increase our commitment to the challenges at hand. So with that, I do want to thank you for joining us today, for taking time away from your businesses to think about the larger system. I also want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for facilitating this event and thank our insiders for continuing to support the goals of NOSH. Over the pandemic, NOSH, like our sister sites in BevNet and Brewbound, have changed our business models to that of a subscription platform. Just as I've said the industry has to focus on community, so too has this change reaffirmed our need and desire to create a community of our own. Now, before we get started with our speakers, a few housekeeping items to keep us all pushing ahead on today's agenda. First, as per local regulations, we are asking attendees to please keep your masks on and above your nose, unless you are actively eating or drinking. I promise we've got lots of delicious things to eat, though. Next, please do submit your questions to our speakers via text, tweet, or email. On your badge, there's a QR code. If you scan that code, you'll be taken to a website with not only the Wi-Fi information, but also information about how to submit questions. With that, an important note. If it looks like I'm texting or checking TikTok on stage, I promise I'm just looking for questions, so send them over. We're here to answer them. With that, I want to preempt another popular question. Right after this conference, we'll share all presentations, and soon after that, we'll post the videos of these sessions to nosh.com. So no need to take every word down. And if you're tuning in virtually, make sure you're a NOSH insider in order to access replays of the event. I want to add that if you are watching virtually, we have an amazing live stream today, and for all of our live stream speakers and guests, I've been told to tell you that the live stream is right that way. Now, in terms of the agenda today, after our main stage content and a delicious lunch, in the afternoon, we're going to offer a choose your own adventure with 2 different tracks of content in smaller breakouts. And after that, we'll have our official NOSH party here at the Lowe's. We hope to see you there. And with that, now it's time to turn the microphones over to the experts who are going to set up these 2 days of discussion. As I may have just overstated, the past year hasn't been easy at all. And I know we shouldn't dwell in the past, but we're going to take one last look at it to consider how we move forward. We'll have a lot of great help as we look. Joining us today to give each of their unique perspectives on the industry, from brand to retailer to investor, please welcome Kabir Jain, Chief Growth Officer for Erewhon, Liz Meislick, Partner at investment group Loft Partners, formerly 2X Ventures, Eugene Kang, the co-founder of meat snack brand Country Archer, and Gail Becker, the founder and CEO of frozen food brand Cauliflower. Hi, guys. Welcome to the stage. It's amazing to be sitting here with you in person, getting to see Gail's signature green in real life. So I want to start by talking about with the past 2 years. Gail, Eugene, you both have food brands of your own. What's been a struggle in terms of production or supply chain over the past 2 years? I know that's a pretty big question. Maybe what's not been a struggle? But let's try to pick 1 or 2 things.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I mean, the labor challenge that we're facing as an industry has been incredibly tough, especially for our business. You know, we're vertically integrated, so we have a manufacturing plant now, or east out here in San Bernardino, and we kind of compete for the same labor denominator with, like, you know, DTC companies, Amazon warehouse, and the demand signal at large has been pretty high. So, you know, food companies are consistently investing in warehousing space and 3PLs, and I think, you know, we're all kind of pulling from the same labor. And so it's been really challenging on our end.
Gail, how about you? How has manufacturing and supply chain been for Cauliflower?
It's been a really challenging year, like it has been for everyone. You know, I started in the news business. I haven't always been in food, and I used to have this news director who said, "Gail, you can work as much as you want and make the most perfect story, but if it doesn't make the 6 o'clock news, no one's going to care." And it's sort of, I'm hearkening back to that because, you know, we can make the best products, we can market the hell out of them, but at the end of the day, it's that last mile that is really putting tremendous strain on all of us.
Well, Kabir, I think that sets up a great question for you. How have issues such as supply chain or, you know, production impacted your assortment and planning as a retailer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, the issues that the brands face, they ripple through the entire chain, right? So the distributors face the issues, and then the retailers face the same issues. And it's obviously gotten a lot better now than it was probably 12 to 18 months ago, but we face the same things, and we're seeing shortages and out of stocks from distributors and brands that they're facing from their ingredients and their manufacturers. The challenging thing for the retailer is, what do we keep on the shelf? What do we keep off the shelf? How long do we keep the space open? How much transparency can we get from the brand or the distributor as to the timing that they even know of when the product will come in? So that's something we're trying to juggle and balance, you know, day by day.
Now, speaking about assortment, we've heard that there's an increase in consumers' interest in comfort foods during the pandemic. I know, I don't think I've eaten mac and cheese in years, and suddenly I was buying boxes of that. So have you seen that firsthand?
Comfort foods. I don't know the answer to that. I think we sell a lot of comfort foods, I would say, both grocery and in food service. Some of our most popular food service dishes, you could argue, are comfort foods: buffalo cauliflower, mac and cheese. We may have better for you versions of them, but they're comfort foods. I would say they're as popular now as they probably ever were before.
Gail, what have you seen in the pizza category? I mean, I think of a pizza as being supremely comforting, especially a cauliflower one.
Yeah, well, in 2020, people were looking obviously for comfort foods, and the pizza category was certainly no exception. The pizzas that performed, really, better than usual were the $3.99 all-you-can-eat pepperoni sort of belly fillers. Those performed exceedingly well. And people weren't really reaching for better-for-you options. The good news is in 2021, people realize, I have to put on jeans again. And so now people are reaching for those better-for-you items, and obviously that serves brands like Cauliflower and all of the brands here very well.
Eugene, have you seen that spike as well in 2021?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on-the-go snacking, high protein, low sugar, those are all kind of hitting those trends on sort of coming out of 2020 and going towards, like, to your point, fitting into those jeans. We're definitely seeing those trends as well.
Yeah.
Liz, let's turn to the investment side a little bit. I think it's fair to say that a majority of brands are seeing out of stocks or supply chain struggles, as we just talked about. Do you think that's impacting where investors place capital? How understanding are they, about this when you're kind of evaluating a deal?
I think it's something that is part of every discussion that we have with potential investment opportunities within our portfolio companies, with other investors. It's just a reality right now. And so I think to your question about, does it affect where we're placing our dollars? Absolutely. We're seeing just with the out of stocks, and we're dealing with emerging brands. So, they're not necessarily first on the list when their co-mans are trying to set a schedule, production. So it means that they have less run time, more volatility in when they can run product. So we tend to have more safety stock. We're investing more in inventory. Obviously, we're seeing higher input costs in certain ingredients and lower availability. So in some cases, brands are actually investing in their harder to source ingredients or components in order to ensure that they're going to have stock. So we are seeing a shift and more focus on supply than we have seen in recent years. But I also think it's creating an opportunity to look at ways to make a better supply chain overall as well. So these challenges will lead to opportunities and innovations in how we do business all across our portfolio that I think will make the brands better overall in the long run.
Have you seen any interesting strategies about how brands are engaging their co-packers or suppliers to make them feel invested in that win with them?
Absolutely. And so before I was an investor, I was a co-packer. And so
I
know very well
that question.
I know very well how important that is. And simple things like building a relationship and building trust, communication, those things matter. And co-mans work harder for the brands and the people that they like. And so we focus a lot on how do we build stronger relationships, how do we get better at demand planning, which is hard when you're in a high growth business. But how do we, work more as partners to alleviate some of their issues and volatility, to be better together and reduce the friction that happens. And that's yielded really positive results for our brands.
Gail, Eugene, how have you guys seen this play out? Eugene, I know you're vertically integrated, but you still have to keep your staff motivated. Gail, I think you work with some co-packers as well.
Yeah, I think what you said, working hand in hand, is very important. And and the co-packer can really be your partner. Like they have vision into ingredient supply a year down the line. So if they start to see that a certain ingredient may be hard to get in 6 months, you start experimenting with swapping out a different starch or whatever it might be, just to protect yourself and so that you can have a continuation of supply.
So I want to switch gears a little bit, and now that we're talking about capital, how have you guys, as keen observers of the industry, how have you seen brands' funding strategies change? Are we seeing more early stage deals? Are brands holding off on trying to take investment until they have more data? Eugene, I know we've talked funding as a whole. What are you kind of seeing with your fellow brands? And
Yeah,
what's your advice?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to funding, I think the first thing foremost is like, what is your sort of 3 to 5 year plan here? And I think, especially if you're in a business in today's environment with supply chain being the way it is, how do you think about using that capital rather than doing, in the times past, which, we saw a lot of emerging brands invest in a lot of marketing, a lot of route to market, boots on the ground, and taking those dollars and investing in with your co-man or your supply chain. I think that's where we're going to start to see a lot of the trends. I think a lot of the co-mans and what we face as a vertical integrated business is similar, which is, labor has been obviously is a shift, a permanent shift, we think, in labor, and the automation investment is going to continue to happen. And I think one of the things you'll realize is these co-mans are multi-generational owned family businesses that are at a life cycle where they might not want to invest in more automation. They're just kind of like, hey, we don't need to. And what's our reason to believe in that brand for that next sort of unlock of growth? And I think a lot of capital investments are going to go towards CapEx here.
Anyone else have some thoughts on this topic?
Well, I think, there's always, as innovation happens, it needs fuel, right? So I don't necessarily see that there are more brands needing more early stage funding. I think that continues to be a need and an opportunity. What we are seeing is on the other end of the spectrum, so as brands are growing, that it's taking longer to scale. And that's because, certainly the current disruptions we're seeing in the market, and also a lot of strategics, which tend to be big buyers of brands in our industry, are wanting bigger businesses. They have had struggles in integrating smaller brands over time, and so they're looking for larger scale, higher margins, and just more predictability, less risk when they're taking them on. So that means that brands need to scale to a higher level than they did. So what we're finding is they need more capital over a longer period of time. And the way to combat that, or a big way to combat that, is really through margin and capital efficiency. So that's something we work on a lot and encourage a lot of brands, even those we don't invest in. We focus on, what you're doing even at the very earliest stages, because it's really hard to take a business that has a 10% margin and make it a 60%. That just can't happen. Scale will not allow that to happen. You have to really fundamentally engineer your product, your offering, in a way that allows for healthy margins at the early stage, and then will only unlock more as you grow.
I think that's such an interesting point, because one of the things that I noticed in 2020, and I'm sure a lot of people here did, was the strategics, the big companies, they stopped innovating, right? All of the efforts were just concentrated on getting their core product out and onto the shelf. So it really provided a wonderful opportunity for the young brands to really innovate and spend that time innovating and launching those products in 2021, and that's proven to be a huge advantage.
I know Erewhon is often a launching pad for emerging brands and innovative products. Have you seen the pace of new launches increasing?
I was going to say the same thing. So, we're less privy to the funding and the capital needs of the brands and businesses that are coming into Erewhon, but I don't think we've ever seen a time where we've seen more innovation or more brands sort of applying to be on the shelves and getting in front of us as a retailer across every category. And so that's probably a function of what everyone's saying, where capital is abundant. And this is an interesting opportunity where maybe the strategics aren't focusing as much on innovation as they maybe have been in the past, and allows the smaller brands to really take charge of the opportunity.
All right, well, I know this is a hot topic we talked about in preparing for this panel. Let's talk SPACs and IPOs. I think a couple years ago, this would not be a topic that we were talking about at NOSH Live necessarily. Liz, how have things changed, and what companies are really a good fit for this?
Well, it is interesting, because SPACs have actually been around for a long time, but they've just started to be utilized in our industry more recently. And obviously, we're seeing brands in our industry start to IPO. I think the feedback is mixed. I mean, if you look at the sector, and particularly recent IPOs, they've taken a hit recently. And I think what that leads to is the factors that I think make a company ripe for IPO or for a SPAC. Again, it comes back to scale, margin, more stability. The public markets don't like volatility. And when you're a high growth business in an emerging space, there is going to be volatility, and it's very hard to predict how the next quarter, the next year is going to go. So I think that waiting for a higher level of maturity and more stability in the demand, at least in the demand cycle for a business, having healthy margins to allow, again, more profitability is really important to consider. Now, that hasn't been necessarily the case for all the brands that are out there, and we'll see. But we still believe that fundamentals matter and that the markets will reward those that have them.
I mean, Eugene, achieving that stability can be really hard in the food industry. I know we've talked about like what happens when the price of beef changes or there's a meat shortage, and the same kind of holds true for many of the brands here who are dealing with commodity ingredients. Do you have any advice on trying to achieve stability when you are naturally dealing with this volatility?
Yeah, especially in our category where protein is such a heavy piece of our cost structure. I think you look what I've told our team, and what we constantly preach in our business is there's just commodities you can't control. You can't control input costs. They are what they are. What you can control are the controllables. How do you alleviate pressure on your packaging? Other cost of goods that are not really outside your control. And I think having just honest, transparent conversations with your retail partners, which we've experienced this past 6 months, has been really, really eye-opening. It's there's always this inherent fear, I think, as emerging brands to go to retail partners and talk about raising price. And I think the good news is that the larger strategics have already sort of paved that road for us this year, and I think a lot of emerging brands are just kind of following suit. But I encourage brands to just have that open dialogue with your retail partners, and you'll see that they're open. They're accepting of that.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think as a retail partner, we understand cost change, our own cost change for products that we produce. So we very much are part of the same issues that others are facing, but that communication, that transparency is everything. And that relates to the first part of the conversation around supply chain and shortages and manufacturing issues. The more that brands and their distributors can communicate with the retailers, the easier it is for everyone to manage the chain. And so that's our advice to any brands that are facing those issues, which is probably everyone here. Communicate all the way up the chain.
We did have a question come in thinking about those, volatile costs and how that can affect pricing in retail. Is there a gap between developing sustainable margins and having a brand that can handle also a lower price in conventional channels? Play in an Erewhon, but also play in a conventional retailer. Eugene, you're nodding.
Yeah, I mean, we face that challenge definitely because, we are the highest price in Erewhon, but we're also trying to compete with conventional brands at like a Target, for example. And I think it just comes back down to sort of what's your value proposition as a brand. And ours is, we pride ourselves on the protein sourcing, right? So it's all grass-fed beef, organic ingredients where we can. And so I think when we come to sort of to the table with like a Target or an Albertsons company, it's like, look, we're never going to be your lowest price leader in the category. That's not going to happen. But what we're going to offer you is incrementality to the shopper that's coming in. And when you have that kind of conversation, I think it lends itself to not be so price cognizant from a delta with the conventional brands.
Now, changing, from investment to a topic I hear a lot of investors discussing, let's talk omni-channel. Certainly in the past year, there was a boom in D2C. But now there are reports from some brands that things are slowing down a bit and consumers are returning to retail. Gail, what did you see with D2C and how, you're a frozen brand. How did you kind of weather this change? Because I think we have a lot of brands in the audience who are like, I don't even know what to do to capitalize on this.
Okay, so if there's anyone in the audience who's looking for a business to start, here's my suggestion. Find a cheaper way to ship frozen food because that's a gold mine. And that's really the problem is that, for D2C, it's, the price is exorbitant because of dry ice. But what we did, obviously we're on Amazon and we use that quite a bit. but we really worked with all of the retailer.coms to make sure that we showed up correctly, that the pipes were clean, that when you Googled cauliflower, you didn't get frozen cauliflower florets or frozen blueberries, which also used to happen. So we spent a lot of time, energy, and effort in doing that, and we've partnered with, the Instacarts and all of those in the world, and it ended up working very well. But when you're a frozen product, there are limitations just because of price.
Liz, what are you kind of seeing industry-wide, with D2C? Are consumers going back to brick and mortar? How should they kind of balance these changing constantly trends?
Well, I think that COVID has definitely accelerated a trend that was already there, which is that we're buying more of our goods, including foods and beverages, online, and that trend is not going away. I think that during the pandemic, when we couldn't go to stores, we also saw a lot more sampling and trial of new items that we did before. We needed that discovery, and we weren't able to go to Costco or to Whole Foods or Erewhon to explore that, and so we had to do that online. Now that we're able to return to stores, I think what we'll see is more of a settling of how and where consumers buy. And so with all of the businesses that we work with and speak to and coach and mentor, it's important that you know where your consumer is and that you are there to support them and give them what they need. So it may be, for example, if you have a bulky, more commodity item, consumers are more likely to buy that online. When it comes to things like supplements, it's more complicated. Folks generally are going to want to try a new brand maybe in the store, but they may want to bulk up online, or vice versa. Both are true. And so really that's where we see that it really comes to that understanding that value proposition. What problem are you solving for the consumer? Where are they going to find out about your product, your category, and how do you show up for them and show up differently online than you do in stores? And ultimately, I think we'll see that consumers will continue to do a variety of different behaviors in where they buy. And so I don't think a business can survive without having both D2C and online as well as brick and mortar presence.
Eugene, you launched a whole new line of plant-based jerky during the pandemic. How did you kind of manage driving that trial and building consumer awareness during a time when consumers weren't necessarily in stores as much?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're very fortunate to have some great retail partners that were willing to sort of launch these items without that trial. And I think for us, it was a data-supported decision in terms of the commercialization process. I mean, we were looking at the early read of our category, and we had noticed a pretty sharp trend in plant-based jerky, specifically within the natural channel. And so when we sort of created this product, is with that idea in mind that there's clearly, it's resonating within this channel. And so when we approach our retail partners within that channel of launching this, despite that we don't have that trialing sort of mechanism, they were still supportive. And so that's been pretty promising.
With Erewhon, one of the cool things I saw when I was here is I went to go order dinner, and it wasn't just, an Instacart or a click and collect. You were on Uber Eats and DoorDash, I think. How have you guys thought about, alternate platforms and a way to, still get your products into the hands of consumers?
Yeah, that's a big conversation for us at Erewhon, and we're managing a couple different businesses. So we've got the grocery business, then we've got the food service business for Postmates and DoorDash and others. Instacart was always our partner of choice. They still are for online grocery, let's call it. But March of 2020 was a wake-up call for Erewhon and probably every retailer in the country that you have to, in some ways, own your own online platform. And so for us, that was our impetus to launch what we call Erewhon Online, which has morphed a lot from last year. In March, if you could get somebody a gallon of milk, whether it was oat, almond, or skim, they were happy. Today, we get people what they want and when they want it. But it was really important for us. And so that creates a new channel for Erewhon and for our brands, right, which is now online. And so I think you mentioned, Gail, Instacart earlier. We have our own version where now brands are interested in different ways of marketing to our customers through our online platform. Yep. And I think we're just in the early innings of thinking of what that looks like. But it creates a really new, interesting opportunity for brands to get in front of Erewhon consumers digitally.
Well, I could keep talking to you guys for a long time about this. But let's say you had a crystal ball in 2019. Knowing what was coming, What would you have done differently to prepare? Or, say you have a crystal ball right now, what do you think brands should be doing to set themselves up for success? And, when using this crystal ball, please don't say buy Bitcoin. Liz, how about you?
I think that, it's easy to look back and say, okay, revisionist history and such. I think, obviously, really being close to your supply chain, making sure that you really understand where your products come from, where your ingredients come from, how you're going to maintain stable supply of those ingredients, working closely with co-mans. That has never been out of style, and I think it's ever more important now, and that's not going to change. It's interesting that Eugene, some of the dynamics he mentioned about what's happening in the co-man space, there's going to be a shift, I think, in the next 10 years where a lot of these family-owned businesses just aren't keeping up with automation, aren't keeping up with technology, and as a result, it's going to lead to an issue in supply. And so I think being really, really locked into your supply chain has been important through this period and will continue to be important over the next 5-10 years.
Eugene, since we just set that up, how about you?
I mean, the thematic for this year and even last year really is about supply chain. And I think at the end of the day, if I had a crystal ball in 2019, it would have been, don't get caught flat-footed with this idea that labor markets are going to stay the same, stay abundant, because that has a ripple effect across the whole supply chain. It really starts with the labor markets, in my opinion. What we're seeing across the supply chain network, whether it's your co-mans, your ingredients, your packaging materials, all the lead times that you're seeing, the cost of inputs are going up. It's all, in my opinion, central back to the labor markets. And I think where we could have spent a lot more time is understanding that labor strategy and how do you hedge against that. And I think automation is the clear winner here, and you're seeing that across the board.
How about you, Kabir? What do you think?
Agree with everything. Crystal ball, we would have bought a 1 million square foot warehouse and bought everything direct from all of our brands and been fully stocked on the shelves. Would have been amazing. But to your other question, I think the advice for brands, and it's more relevant now than ever, what I would say is, and this is obvious, getting into retail is half the battle. You have to sell on the shelf. And the shelves are as competitive now as they ever have been, with amazing brands in every category. And it's impossible for a retailer to market and promote your brand in such an outsized manner versus another brand that you'll perform that much better, right? So what it means is the brands that do really well market themselves really well outside of the stores, and they are pushing traffic and driving their own velocity, and it's more important now than ever. So get in the doors, get on the shelves, but then starts the second sort of harder chapter about selling on the shelves.
Well, I think that sets you up, Gail. You are one of the smartest marketers in terms of branding on shelf and how you speak to consumers. What would your crystal ball set you up and tell you?
Well, obviously I agree with what everyone said, so just to take a little bit of a different take on it, I think if I look back at 2020 and I try and find the silver lining, as I'm sure we all do, I think one of the interesting things about it is it was a case where, the big guys didn't have any more experience in dealing with the global pandemic than we did. Right? So we were all on even footing, and we were all making up the rules as we went along. And I think what's really good about that is to really look at innovation well beyond all the wonderful food products that are out there, but really innovation in every part of the business. Supply chain. Maybe finance is one area you don't want innovation, but supply chain and operations and sourcing and to really think about innovation in every pore of the organization, because that's what separates us, and that's really something too that we could really succeed in the years to come.
Well, I think that's great fodder for our audience to think about, and thank you guys so much for joining us today. I think this really sets up our next 2 days of discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
I'm going to have you guys go this way, and I'm going to head this way. That's a long walk across this stage. So we ended our last session talking about crystal balls to foresee future events. I've got good news and bad news. First, the bad. I unfortunately do not have a way to look into the future. However, the good news is that up next, we've got one of the closest things to that. Joining us on stage is Lori Demerit, the CEO of research firm The Hartman Group. Now, Lori, in full transparency, is not able to predict the future either. But what she can do is pull from her years of experience talking to consumers to not only be a soothsayer of what's to come, but also a bit of a mind reader to help you better understand what consumers are thinking. As a brand, it can be hard to get into the minds of your shoppers and best determine not only what will attract consumers, but also what will help you retain them. Now, as we just heard, this is crucially important over the past year, particularly as private label brands have continued to rise in importance, stealing share from branded products. So with that, let's turn it over to Lori to talk about what brands should be keeping in mind if they want to keep their customers. And as she's presenting, please feel free to submit questions and we'll try to take some at the end.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much to the folks at NOSH and BevNet who invited me to participate. My topic today is branding. Given that, it might seem a little bit strange to the statement I'm about to make, which that brands today, in terms of what they've traditionally meant as symbols of consumer values, have greatly diminished in terms of their relevancy. Why? Because consumers today are much more knowledgeable, much more sophisticated, and frankly, much more demanding about what they want from attributes and products. And so brands have been supplanted in many ways in terms of their primacy of what they mean in the food and beverage marketplace by products. And by products, I mean the attributes and the benefits that consumers are seeking today. So while I'll be talking about branding today, I want to keep that premise in the back of your minds, because consumers are no longer using brands in the same way they have in the past. And what really matters to them are the benefits they're seeking, the attributes they're after, and how well you do at messaging about those things. So I want to start out by just understanding where a brand's been and where a brand's going in our society. And this is sort of a framework we use that our anthropologists use to understand consumer trends. And so going from left to right across the bottom there, we look at things that are very broad in nature, right? Social cultural trends, things like income disparity, the changing ethnic makeup of our society, inflation, pricing, how does that impact consumers? Things that consumers are aware of but can't always speak to, and yet are helping shape their values and beliefs. Now, the next step over is this idea of system of influencers, and these are all the things in the food culture space that impact consumer sentiment and behavior. And traditionally, this is where brands have lived, right? They were sort of symbols of things for consumers to make it really easy when they were shopping. And so all the things to the right of that system really weren't things that consumers spent a lot of time thinking about, nor did marketeers think about, because the brand was there to stand for those things. And if we remember, if we go back, right, 80, 90, 100 years to when the consumer packaged good industry started, it was really about safety, right? The brand was a symbol of safety. Because back then, what you chose for breakfast, frankly, could kill you, potentially, right? Food safety was a huge issue in terms of foodborne illnesses, how food was produced. And so that brand was symbolic to consumers. Now, that was easy in some ways because all of those things to the right were very similar amongst consumer groups, right? So that cultural value, that next step over, was about safety. Well, that's not necessarily what it's about today, right? Values today around food are increasingly important to consumers, but those values are everything from organic to sustainability to how food is made and grown. We find that amongst younger consumers, amongst millennials and Gen Z consumers, they actually believe that their purchase decisions have more impact on society than their voting decisions. Now, that may also speak to our political system today, but certainly it's the case that the values that they have around food they believe mean something. And so our cultural values become more fragmented. Moving to the next state, needs and context. What were the needs back when brand came about, 40s, 50s, 60s? Well, it was about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was pretty simple, right? The American way of eating. We all kind of ate the same way. Well, today there's 8 different day parts for eating. breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus 5 snacking occasions. And I'll say that those 5 snacking occasions now make up 50% of our consumption. Snacking is a huge part of what we do. And some of those snacking occasions are totally new and distinct in our society. The early morning snack, when we're having that little something before we have whatever we have breakfast. The late night snack, so after dessert, something else we're having before we go to bed. So there's been a real fragmentation across how we eat in the day. And then finally, food behaviors and habits. Again, when brands first came about in the consumer packaged good industry, that was pretty easy too, right? Because they were primarily marketing to a nuclear family, 2 adults and 2 kids. Fairly straightforward. Well, we're seeing huge fragmentation in household competition and what families look like today. And in fact, families with kids are actually a declining number of households in our society today. Number of households with kids under the age of 18 is only 28% of households. It's the same number of households that are single-person households. Multi-generational households are on the rise, so households that have multi-generations of 18 plus years of age. And so there's been a huge fragmentation within that household. And moreover, a fragmentation in what our needs are. 50% of US adults have tried a customized eating approach or diet in the past year. That goes up to almost 70% for Gen Z consumers under 24 years of age. And so our preferences, our beliefs around food, there's a huge tail of these diets and customized eating approaches that they're experimenting with. And so this fragmentation has meant that brand as a symbol way back over here no longer symbolizes all our fragmented needs. And so brand and what it means has changed. Now, why has that happened? There's really 2 enablers or triggers. Number 1 is the access to information. Now, why do we care about this information as consumers? Because we want to know more about our food. There's a huge amount of distrust in conventional institutions today. 3/4 of consumers have little to no trust in elected officials. Almost 60% say they have little to no trust in business leaders. And so we want to peek behind the curtain and see what's happening. And we can do that now because there's so much access to information. And number 2, importantly, health and wellness, the values around health and wellness, right, which has gone from something that was sort of a niche, sort of a silo in our society, to something that almost every US consumer wants today. 3/4 of consumers in the US have changed their beliefs about health and wellness in the past year and a half. Not surprising, right? So whether that's initiating new undertakings, new types of exercise, new dietary approaches, there's a need now for these health and wellness benefits that they're seeking out in food and beverage products. It's no longer just about indulgence, just about satiety. It's about getting benefits they want that are functional and medical and health related in nature. And so you can see here just some examples across the bottom of brands that initially stood for the idea of safety and consistency, right? You wanted everything to taste the same when you bought it. That's what that brand stood for. And then we started to see some change as things like health and wellness and weight management in particular started having new products on the marketplace that individuals could say, yes, I'm different. I need something that's specialized for my needs, to where we're at today on the far right, where brands really are much less about that symbolism than about this diversity of attributes and benefits that consumers are seeking. So, what does that mean as you think about how to market and speak to products and consumers? Well, number 1, I think the easy thing, the low-hanging fruit, are ingredients. When consumers are asked, how do they understand a brand? How do they really seek to find meaning in it? The ingredients that the product contains are almost always the first thing they mention. And this is why so many legacy brands have struggled so much over the years, right? Because their ingredients weren't keeping up with consumer desires and trends in the market